Hello and welcome to Power to the People with me, Graeme Pryce. I was just about to retire for the evening last night when I heard the familiarly annoying noise of a notification arriving on my mobile phone. 9 times out of 10 it's something to do with YouTube, but as it was a Saturday night around kicking out time for the pubs, I decided not to ignore it for a change. I had the vain hope it might be some old flame who'd remembered me after a night on the Jägermeisters and decided to send a hilarious drunken text. Instead, it was a notification from Sky News saying that there'd been an assassination attempt on Donald Trump at one of his mad, insane, cultist MAGA rallies. I was tempted to sit down and make a little video about it there and then, but I thought, only fools rush in, and I've spent a lot of my life in a rush. So I decided to digest my opinion a little bit and see what else would come out. I'm glad I did that because it gave me a chance to tune into a couple of live streams and watch a few videos from some of the American YouTubers that I watch. There's a few content creators that I'd recommend if you want to watch what apparently looks like America's slow descent into civil war at the hands and lies of Donald Trump. I'll put links to the main US channels that I follow in the description box for you. Suffice to say, I'm not surprised that somebody has brought violence to the campaign of the most decisive, dishonest and polemic former president of all time. But I do have a few other thoughts about it that I'd like to share with you, right after this. Hey, sorry to interrupt, just a quick interjection. The best way to help the channel and beat the algorithms is to hit the like button, leave a comment when we're done and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. There was a time when a lot of people compared Donald Trump to Boris Johnson, and back then when Trump was just another shite president that had mostly won because he was a well-known TV personality, the comparison seemed quite fair. Trump has gone on to be something that even Boris Johnson didn't have the cheek or moral depravity to become, though, and that's saying something. Despite having over 60 accusations of election fraud overturned by court across the land, despite being a civilly convicted rapist, despite being convicted on 34 actual felonies, and the fact that he has repeatedly said insanely creepy things about his own daughter, Trump still has a huge following of hardcore idiots, lunatics now, cult members that would literally suck a fart out of his arse and come up smiling if he told them it was fresh air. He's kind of like Farage, but not just on steroids, also on ease, whiz, ketamine, crack, and a few of those little blue pills that your granddad keeps in the drawer next to his bed. But before I get too far from the point, let's just have a quick roundup. It seems just a few minutes after the start of one of his cult meetings in Pennsylvania, shots rang out and Trump at first clutched his ear before being piled to the ground by a massive FBI agents and bodyguards. Good job it wasn't Biden. He'd have crunched under the weight of them like a carrier bag full of dried twigs, wouldn't he? A Marks and Spencer's carrier bag though, not an Netto one. Apparently, a 20-year-old local man called Thomas Crooks, which is kind of ironic considering how often Donald Trump calls anybody who challenges him crooked, had attempted to assassinate the disgraced and dishonest former president. More shots were fired, obviously, of course they were, it's America. And within a few minutes, Mr. Crook and another MAGA cultist had been killed. But apparently 2 other people had been injured as well. Trump was fine though. The bullet had slightly clipped his ear and he managed to get one publicity shot out of it with his fist in the air and blood streaming down his face before being bundled away to a fleet of armoured vehicles and police cars. I think there's a few points to make here. I think the first is that we've seen another show of utter incompetence from people on the right, in much the same way that the further right the Tories drifted, the more incompetent they became. It seems the shooter was allowed to climb a building just 150 yards away from the stage while carrying a large semi-automatic rifle dressed in grey combat gear. He was then allowed to arrange his shot and fire despite several of the MAGA cultists in the crowd informing security staff about him being there as much as 7 minutes before he fired. It's since been found also that he was driving a vehicle containing several possibly explosive devices that was serious enough to warrant the FBI calling bomb disposal squads. You have to wonder if it's just sheer incompetence because Trump is an idiot who employs idiots who say, yes, Mr. Trump, you're definitely a genius, to whatever crazy shit he comes out with next. Or if he's just surrounded himself with people that are so obsessed with him that they just couldn't conceive of there being anybody there that might want to harm their big orange god. Which leads nicely to the next point. How on earth did the guy miss a big fat orange balloon of a man like him from just 150 yards away? With more, apparently fired more than one shot. I suppose nerves probably done it. He probably knew full well the next shots that he'd fired would be coming towards him. And maybe there's a factor of, a civilian not really knowing that well how to handle and be competent with a weapon that is literally marketed as the civilian version of the M16. Could be something to do with that. Of course, the rise of Trump itself shows that America is clearly full of fucking idiots, and so is the internet. So within minutes, there were literally millions of idiots trying to find some way to believe that absolutely anything other than the plain truth had happened. And they were coming from both sides too. America has some pretty freaky lefties, and I don't just mean Owen Jones level of freaky, way beyond that. Some of my favourites have been Democrat supporters saying that the whole thing is fake, and when Trump clutched his ear, he was actually crushing a blood capsule on it. Unfortunately for the dull-witted fuckwits that have come up with that one, there were literally thousands of cameras with everything from real stock black and white film to the most advanced DSLRs invented there, and there's been photos released already where you can not only see that Trump's ear is indeed injured, but you can also see, in one shot, actually see a bullet flying through the air, which is pretty amazing, like. But, it kind of ruins their theory, doesn't it? Actual left-leanings, democratic and socially responsible leaders around the world have condemned the attack, as they absolutely should, of course. But not all the right-leaning Republicans in the US have. No. What they've done is explode into an embarrassing pantomime of blame, lies, capitalising on confusion and anti-democrat propaganda. This falls apart a little bit though, when you take into account that the FBI have already proven Thomas Crooks voted Republican in the midterm elections and was a paid-up member of the Republican Party. Although he did one time donate $15 to his local Democrats campaign, so he could be the most evil and dishonest man in America, and he probably met up with Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton outside to eat some babies and shoot up some adrenochrome. I went and watched some live streams, and I must say, my favourite, utterly ignorant, hypocritical, yogurt-brained MAGA cult prick was one who came staggering out looking shocked with a lovely t-shirt emblazoned with a picture of Trump and NRA, National Rifle Association, against pictures of the American flag with an eagle as well, and loudly exclaimed, "This has gone too far! We need to talk about gun control!" Apparently, having literally the highest gun crime rates in the world, and living in a country where a classroom full of children gets shot by a lunatic every few months is an acceptable price to pay for gun ownership. But if someone fires one at Trump, well then it's time to talk about gun control. Get your priorities right, people. Fucking hell. Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far. I'm sure there'll be a lot more that'll come out about this in the next few days. I find it hard to believe that there's anybody that is surprised that there are people out there that want to shoot Donald Trump, but that would seem to be the case. He might use it as a massive publicity thing to try and get some sympathy from it from people who probably thought he was a total fucking loser a few days ago. Or it could go another way. Let's remember he's an abject coward of a man. He spent his life dodging and running away from responsibility. This is a guy who pretended to have bone spares so that he could avoid being drafted to Vietnam. And he's just had a bullet pass less than half an inch away from his head. We can only imagine how scary that actually is. Well, most of us, I hope, can only imagine how scary that actually is. I know there's a few people out there with a few stories. But it's either going to take a lot of courage from Trump or a tenfold increase in security, or both, before he'll stand there on a stage in front of a crowd in another little weird town in America for one of his cult rallies again, isn't it? Wonder how many Bibles and gold sneakers he'll have to sell to fund that. If you've enjoyed the video, then remember to hit the like and subscribe before you go. And if you want to help out a bit further, there are links to PayPal and Patreon, or you can just buy me a coffee in the description box below. Every time you think you've seen the most bonkers thing that can happen, something else comes along and surprises you, doesn't it? Still, at least the most shocking things happening at the moment aren't a continual daily expose of the sex crimes, lies and corruptions of the Tory party anymore. At least we have time to be shocked about things going on in other parts of the world now. So I'll leave it there. Ta-ra-la. Notification instead from Sky News saying there had been an assassination attempt. There's been an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Donald. Somebody tried to shoot the Don. Anyway.